Welcome to 100 Yards of Football this evening. It's our NFL Draft Prospect Special. This evening, we're going to highlight Tyler Shelvin, defensive tackle out of LSU. If you like the video this evening, please come in and share it. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. And joining me this evening, he's a guy that been away from us for about 2 weeks. We dearly missed him. I missed him. It's good to have him back on the saddle this evening. His name is Kevin the Bull Jones, who I consider the greatest high school football coach that I've known on any level in my 60 years. And trust me, I've lived in cities of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Memphis, Tennessee, Dallas, Texas, even a little bit up north in Dayton, Ohio, and Indianapolis, Indiana. But Lord have mercy, this young man is the best I ever seen do it and ever talked about it. And he knows the line positions on the offensive and defensive line at the highest level. But he's joining us back this evening. And I'm going to bring him up because he has some things he want to say. And he told me before we started this evening that he'd like to give a lot of people a shout out. So me bring him up. The most talented high school football coach on any level. My man, and we're glad to have him back this evening, Kevin the Bull Jones. How you doing, sir?
Thank you so much, my big brother, Vincent Turner. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. God is good. I'm glad to be here. On March the 15th, I was diagnosed with COVID, and I was actually asymptomatic. And then a week later, the bottom fell out, and I found myself at Piedmont Henry Hospital here down on the south side of Atlanta. And let me say kudos to all of those wonderful doctors and nurses, Monique Cobb, who's head of the nurses on that third floor at Piedmont Henry. Those women, those are my sheroes. Those are the women and the men that took care of me in a time when I walked in that hospital and didn't know what hit me. It hit me so hard. And those soldiers, I call them heroes. And I've done my time in the United States Marine Corps, but those are the real soldiers. They took me, they embraced me, they told me I was going to be all right. And every last person that walked into my hospital room those 5 days I was there did a magnificent job of just letting me know that we're going to get you better, you're going to be okay, and you're going back to your family. And I'm going to tell you something, Vincent, going through a whole football season of football, high school football here in the Metro Atlanta area, doing all of my high nutrition, immune boost and oranges and ginger root and all of that stuff, turmeric, vitamin Z, zinc. Vincent, I did it all. And I went through a whole football season unscathed. But for whatever reason, I got hit this time, and it was the scariest point in my life. And I just want to say thank you to those people at Piedmont Henry Hospital that took me when I couldn't no longer be around my family and my wife and kids and not knowing if I was coming out. And they took care of me, and the comfort and the love, the support I got, Vincent, was unbelievable. They made me feel I was afraid. And I can say that as a coach, in front of millions or thousands, whatever, because I didn't know what the next step was. Because when you're in that room by yourself, Vincent, it's just you by yourself and those doctors and nurses that walk in. I honor and salute them for everything they did to help me get back to where I am today. It is a blessing from God, and it's a blessing that he put his hands on them to take care of me so that I could be here today to talk to you all this evening. So thank you. I'm glad to be here. The glass is always half full, but at the end of the day, those soldiers, the real heroes. And Vincent, let me say this real quick. It's nothing like what you see on TV. It's nothing like what you see on ABC News and your local channels. This stuff is real. Please, I urge everybody to get a shot, because you don't want to be in that room, because in that room, it's only you by yourself, and you don't want to go in that room. So thank you for giving me a few seconds to honor those men and women that took care of me. I love them for it. I'll never forget it. They are the reason why, along with the man upstairs, that I'm here today.
Well, that being said, I'd like to say thank you for sharing those kind thoughts and words and sharing your story this evening, because COVID-19 is for real. and my mother and father had it. I understand where you're coming from, but most of all, when you was in there, everyone here 100 yards of football kept you in serious prayer. And you know, I text you every day to see how you was all right. But however, we missed you, and we're glad to have you back, big guy. And
I'm glad to be back. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that information this evening.
Yes, sir. Let's talk football.
Let's talk about my man from LSU, Mr. Tyler Shelvin. What do you like about him going into the 2021 NFL draft, and what's so special about his skill set?
Okay, here's a big fella. We call him a space eater. And on my level, we call them space eaters because they work from tackle to tackle. Okay, they're not those guys that we want to have them make tackles outside the hash. At 6'3", 350 plus pounds, I'll say that because he just, whether it's 346, either way, it's just a biscuit away from 350. A trip to Bojangles get you weighing 350 pounds, but nevertheless, he's a great space eater. A zero technique. To me, he's an odd front guy. He covers that center. He has excellent leg push and drive, which for a big guy, when you're big, you're just a hair under 6'3" and you're 350 pounds. The bend factor is for real. And if you can bend, then you're in that top echelon of players that play collegiate football that's trying to get ready for the NFL. So his push is what makes him special. And his ability to press the pocket, he's got a great burst, but his knowledge of using his feet and hands to take opponents back, he's definitely going to have to be blocked by two people on the next level. And this is not a big draft for linemen. So, that's not his fault. It's just a situation that, it's not a big draft for the big huggy bears, I call them, big sugar bears. And he's just in one of those guys in that situation, Vincent, that even though his skill set gives him a high grade because he's able to push, get off blocks, make plays, his biggest thing is it's not a big draft. You got all these quarterbacks and you got all these fancy, pretty receivers and tight ends that look like receivers. All those guys are going to go first, and that's the only reason why he's not going on the first or second day, because those guys are going to go first. But skill set wise, he's got great hands. Now he needs to work on his pass rush because that's one of those things that he has to be concerned about. He has to be able to have at least two moves, and right now he wasn't asked to do that. And here's one thing that I'm concerned about with him, Vincent, that I hope, he only played really 1 year of collegiate football. Okay. And he did a good job. But, sitting out this past year, I think that, had he played this year, it would have increased his value to increase himself in the draft, because even Christian Barmore didn't start the season off great. It came later. And for them big huggy bears, that's what you need, Vincent. They need to mature later on into the season. And he didn't get a chance to do that. So would that be a situation for him to deal with? Last but not least, he did not do the bench press at his pro day. Now, that to me, if you didn't play the whole season and you didn't do your bench press when you had a whole season to get ready for it, those are things that, from a maturity standpoint, I'm sure that his handlers are going to help him with. But as far as the skill set, Vincent, he does have it. He's going to have to be pushed a little more because there's just some things the coach in me sees. There's some things that he needs to be pushed and prodded a little more. But at 6'3", 350 pounds, you can pretty much do what you want if you get it right between the ears.
I'm going to tell you, Coach, I like Mr. Shelvin. I didn't know that he didn't bench press at his pro day. That's kind of like, I guess that brings up a little flags. But what I like about him, he opted out in 2020. But go back and look at his 2019 game film. It was pretty good. 2 games that stuck out, the game against Auburn, then the semifinals against Georgia. He was very active. Now, the line of scrimmage. I'm just kind of like a fan. I'm following you. But I'm going to say this. He a guy that eats up blockers. He gobbles them up. He's in there. He can handle those double teams. But I'm going to take you back, Coach, before I get to who he reminds me of. I like his production. In 3 years, 48 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss. 1 sack, being double teamed most of the time. To me, that's pretty good. But I'm going to take you back in time. All the way back in time, because I'm 60, coach. You still a baby boy. Take them back when I was a sophomore at the University of Arkansas. And I saw this guy from Texas Tech, from San Antonio, Texas, named Gabriel Rivera, that went with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had that thing where he gobbled up a lot of people at the nose tackle position. Then think about this, coach. You remember Gilbert Brown that played with the Green Bay Packers? Big athletic guy. Mm-hmm. We remember my man, Mr. Vince Wilfork out of the U. I'm not saying he on that same level, but he's kind of got that same ability tying up blockers. Now, if this guy would have kept his head on straight and done what was right and had all the talent in the world, he got a little bit of Albert Hainsworth in him. You know what he do, coach. Right. But Hainsworth was a head case, but I still love Albert because he played for the University of Tennessee. You know my love there. Then it reminds me of a guy at 901 that played at East High School that went to Tennessee by Dan Williams that got drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. All those guys had an uncanny ability to eat up blockers at the line of scrimmage and handle double teams. And then most of all, Mr. Shelvin has got to keep up that LSU legacy, man. Think who he's following now. Leonard Marshall, Glenn Dorsey, and Anthony McFarland. So I think him going into the draft, even though he didn't do the bench press, and there's some red flags, I think the kid is going to be a good football player at the next level.
Well, I tell you, two strengths and two weaknesses that we both identified. You know, he has figured out something with that leg drive. He's thick in the leg area, the massive, but he knows how to use it the right way. Okay, once and that push and the burst, he has figured out how to mature himself into a double team block. Okay, and even two gapping. You know, his deal is not directional, hitting gaps and slanting and things of that nature, but that's fine. Hopefully, he'll go to a team that will use his skills to the best of his ability, to the team's ability. But here's the thing: once he develops and he really doesn't need it as a zero technique, a nose, but once he develops a pass rush move, he wants to not have to come off the field on third down. And that's some things that happened to him the last season he played in 2019. He came off the field. So his endurance, his durability, and his ability to develop a pass rush move, and he'll be fine. He will do exactly what a team such as maybe the Detroit Lions that need everything on defense, maybe the Buffalo Bills who need some interior people. Those people need someone like him, and not to his fault. You know, you got all the pretty boys going in the first 2 days. That's just what it is, pretty boys. Okay, but the big sugar bears, the hugger bears, the one who make the linebackers look pretty, he's going to have to wait till day 3. But guess what, Vincent? I agree with you. He's going to be a fantastic player on the next level because he knows how to bend and keep low pad level, and that can keep you in the NFL.
Final words about Tyler Shelvin, tackle out of LSU this evening, Mr. Kevin the Bull Jones.
I find that, you know, in the process, one thing Coach Saban always says, you know, Nick Saban says, he says, increase your worth and your value. You know, the thing that Shelvin, whoever told him to sit out, you know, hopefully that doesn't come back to bite him because he seems like a good kid and he is skilled enough to be a great player in the NFL through development. I think that playing in 2020 would have definitely helped him, and it probably would have increased his stock so that he could be drafted higher. But in your famous words, however, when he gets to a team, I pray that he gets around some coaches and them grown men in there going to teach him how to get that work in. And guess what? Hopefully he has a chip on his shoulder and he takes somebody's spot. I think he's going to make it in the league.
We'd like to say thank you for joining us this evening on 100 Yards of Football. And as you know, I always got to say something that really puts a shock to the world. I look at Tyler Shelvin. He played at LSU. Baton Rouge is about 40 miles from New Orleans. So, Mr. Shelvin, I'm going to go by the great rap group, the Hot Boys. Hey, man, you better get yourself together because I'm looking for you to bling bling at the next level in the 2021 NFL draft. I'd like to say thank you to this young man here. It's good to have him back. The most talented high school coach in America. And I put him up against anybody. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. My man back with us this evening at 100 Yards Football, Mr. Kevin the Bull Jones. We'd like to say, if you like the video this evening, please come in and share it. We are 100 Yards of Football, and thank you.